Please grab your seats. How are you all doing? Very good. That's exactly what I want to hear. I want to start off by saying that we are convening and meeting today on the unceded and stolen territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, Kwantlen, Simiamu, and other Coast Salish nations. While I can't say this of many other spaces that you're going to find yourself in, nor can I speak of this in regards to the physical space that we're in, but as far as what we choose to do with our time here, we commit ourselves to decolonizing these spaces by foregrounding the voices of indigenous communities and recognizing our continued relationship with the oppressive settler colonial project, which we continue to contribute to in every way, shape, or form. Whether it's in the aesthetics of the space that we're in, which resembles in no way, shape, or form what indigenous communities would have chosen to do with this space, or the structural institutional relationships that we have with it. But nevertheless, our programming at the Center for Comparative Muslim Studies tries to disrupt that in everything that we do. And we also invite you as an individual or as a collective or as part of a community to recognize, identify your own relationship vis-a-vis the settler colonial project, and also how you can disrupt it in your day-to-day affairs. It might seem mundane, it might seem trivial, but there's nothing trivial about decolonization. You have to start somewhere, and you haven't started yet. Please consider the conversations that we're going to have today an invitation to do so. The Center for Comparative Muslim Studies is a center here at Simon Fraser University that fosters academic and public discussion and understanding of Muslim societies and cultures. It attempts to shift the analysis from the notion of a single religious context to an extraordinarily complex landscape comprised of different Muslim experiences and interpretations. This is a landscape where Muslims are agents in the construction of their societies and cultures. Fundamentally, CCMS is committed to engaging minds and building communities. Today's event is part of the Project on Palestine Studies, the first initiative of its kind in Canada. And this initiative is geared towards expanding the programming on the history, present, and future of Palestine here at SFU and beyond, with the hope of bringing together a multiplicity of disciplines, local and international scholars, and resources marshaled. We're waiting for those resources, but whatever resources we have in our possession will be marshaled in order to accomplish this mandate. The Project on Palestine Studies will house a number of components in order to support the numerous facets of Palestinian studies or studies of Palestine, including pedagogical engagement, an event series, which this event is part of, a resource library, and a scholarship program. The Project on Palestine Studies is also home to the annual Edward Said Memorial Lecture, which was inaugurated last year, a pedagogical initiative, and a forthcoming library, as I mentioned. The signature series includes events like today's, but another forthcoming event, there will be lots of other forthcoming events. Another forthcoming event is actually happening tonight at the Cinematheque. For those of you who are aware, there's a film screening of Palestinian films that we would strongly encourage you to attend. So you can see we're trying our best to support as much Palestine-related programming as we possibly can, sometimes 2 events in a single day. Thus far, we've organized somewhere in the range of 60 events over the last couple of years since the commencement of the genocide, and I'm not saying this to pat ourselves on the back, but to remind us that despite that, so little has been accomplished. Today's event is a reminder of the colossal tasks that lie before us to be able to reckon with the weight of the genocide in Gaza and our responsibilities, not just as members of any particular community, but as members of humanity writ large, to unsettle that and change it for the well-being of humanity. Today's event is truly extraordinary. I want to thank my dear colleague, Dr. Tamara Soma, for convening today's talk. I will introduce Dr. Soma, who will then introduce our guest speaker, and then there will be a forthcoming discussion. Dr. Tamara Soma holds a PhD in planning from the University of Toronto and is the research director and co-founder of the Food Systems Lab. Dr. Soma is an associate professor at the School of Resource and Environmental Management here at SFU, where she conducts research on issues pertaining to food systems planning, indigenous food sovereignty, food loss and waste, food systems resiliency, and circular food economy. Prior to SFU, she was a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Geography and Planning at the University of Toronto and the Food Equity Coordinator at New College, University of Toronto. Her dissertation investigated the factors that influence urban household food consumption and food wasting practices in Indonesia, and the ways in which food systems consideration can improve urban planning decision-making. All of which are extremely vital issues, not just when we think about Gaza, but even in our current locale here in the Lower Mainland. She has published her work in various planning environmental journals, and if I were to list them, we would be here for quite some time. So I'm sorry, Dr. Soma. I'm not doing you justice. Beyond academic publications, she's also written for Al Jazeera, Huffington Post, Policy Options, The Conversation, and many other locales. She's been interviewed extensively by the BBC, Global News, Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, CBC, another long list. But all this to say that Dr. Soma's work is highly valued and greatly appreciated and immensely respected. She was also selected as a 2014 Pierre Trudeau doctoral scholar at the time, and is a Joseph Armand Bombardier Shirk CGS doctoral fellow. I know, I'm like, all right, I know it's old, but also holds the SFU Teaching Excellence Award, as well as the Royal Society of Canada Fellowship. So, a very, very illustrious career for a very young person. Anyway, Dr. Soma, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adele. Thank you. And he just dated me, basically. It's like 2,000 words. Like, oh no! Now it's out there. Greetings of peace, my beloved relations, and Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon all of you. Ramadan Kareem to my siblings who are observing the fast during the holy month of Ramadan. I know Professor Abu Shaban is fasting. And to those of you not observing the fast, your Muslim neighbors and friends will always be happy when gifted treats and lots of love. So please feel free this 1 month that you can be sending chocolates and treats and goodies, and we will be so happy and grateful. So today, on behalf of the Center for Comparative Muslim Studies and the Project for Palestine Studies hosted by our center, I'm truly, truly and deeply honored to introduce our distinguished speaker, Professor Ahmed Abu Shaban. Dr. Abu Shaban is the Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture and Veterinary Medicine at Al-Azhar University in Gaza, a visiting professor of the Faculty of Environmental and Urban Change at York University, my alma mater, an adjunct professor at the School of Resource and Environmental Management at Simon Fraser University, which is my department. Dr. Abu Shaban continues to teach his students, offering workshops and lectures, even if it means being up at 3 a.m. Toronto time to teach and mentor his students in Gaza. He is deeply committed to rebuilding the educational system and the food system in Gaza and uplifting his people, and I truly hope that today we can all find ways to support his vision. Dr. Abu Shaban has had an illustrious academic career working with various international organizations such as the United Nations and Food and Agriculture Organization, and of course at his university and many, many other universities around the world. He completed a postdoc in environmental sociology at the University of Wisconsin, so Yildiz, there's that connection there. A PhD in agriculture economics, if any economics people are in the room, at the University of Hohenheim in Stuttgart, Germany, an MSc in agricultural sciences in Göttingen, and a BSc in agricultural science at Al-Azhar University in Gaza. Dr. Ahmed Abu Shaban's research focuses on food systems, climate resilience. There's Dr. Amanda Crump here that does a lot of climate work. we can make connections there. I'm all about connections. Food connects us all, and I feel like that's the spirit today. He also works on market development, particularly in communities affected by conflict. He examines how informal food networks, traditional agricultural practices, and gender-inclusive policies contribute to food security and economic stability. His research also explores sustainable farming methods, circular economies, and climate adaptation strategies, integrating data-driven analysis and policy research to strengthen food systems. He is currently working on many, many projects, but especially projects that assess the resilience of Gaza's food system, explore the role of indigenous farming knowledge in climate adaptation, and develop crisis-resilient policies for food production and distribution. And he also conducts market systems analysis to create economic strategies that can support long-term food sovereignty. The title, wow, it's amazing, Professor. The title of his talk today is From Control to Annihilation, Food Education and the Destruction of Palestinian Life in Gaza. And just again, some of you already have your food, but the meal today is from Taibe. And Taibe is a Syrian-run business consisting of many refugees from Syria. And so the delicious food that you're having today is from them. After Professor Abu Shaban's talk, we will have a Q&A until 5:30, making sure that Professor can also get his time to break fast and also rest because he's not drinking any water. So without further ado, please give a very warm, loving welcome to Professor Abu Shaban.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity and the platform. My friend and colleague Tamara, and also I got to know the wonderful people of Center of Muslim Comparative Studies and their also brilliant project on Palestine. I usually appreciate any opportunity to talk about Palestine because I believe what we have here is a battle of knowledge and battle of awareness and reflection of the voices, unheard voices of the victims. And therefore, it is my responsibility to bring the voices of victims in Palestine and to bring that narrative and to challenge this narrative that is brought by the propaganda here in Western media, not only to reflect what's going on after October 23, because this is very important. What's going on in Palestine is not, this is actually what they would like everybody to believe, that the history of Palestine started after October 23. It has a very long history. And history of ugly settler colonialism project that started 100 years ago. And what they are trying to do now, they are trying to conclude their project. So therefore, I really appreciate the opportunity to reflect these long-term strategies of the settler colonialism project to challenge the lives of the Palestinians. I like usually to start with this map. This map is just showing the demographic change over time, with the green color reflecting the Palestinian people and the white color reflecting those Jewish settlers who came maybe around 100 years ago. They were seeking refugee in Palestine as they were mistreated in Europe. And maybe it's very important to answer very relevant question. What does it mean to be a Palestinian? To be an Arab, to be a Muslim, or to be what? What is actually a Palestinian? So we started this event by land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this land is stolen from the indigenous people. And Palestinians are the indigenous people of Palestine. So my name is Ahmed. I am Muslim. I am Palestinian. But also I know a very popular Christian or origin of Christianity. Jesus Christ himself, he was a Palestinian. And guess what? Also I know Jewish Palestinian. One of those actually hostages who were released in the recent deal, he was Jewish from Nablus, from West Bank. So it's not the issue that being pro-Palestine, being against Judaism. Judaism is a religion. But again, this is a narrative. They need a narrative because if you steal something, if you are theft and you steal the land, you need a narrative actually to justify that. So you give a narrative that God promised us this land 3,500 years ago. And then this is the narrative they are trying to use. So if I say, no, this is my land, so you are against my religion, so this is the narrative they are trying to do. Now, if we look at this map, we see actually how the demography has changed over time, with more white color, less green color. And here we are not talking about numbers. We are not talking about population size. We are talking about land. So this is what they are trying to take. They are trying to take more and more land and to push the Palestinian into more and more smaller pieces, isolated land. And the question actually, how they were successful in doing this. And by the way, this map we show here, this is not the present. This is the present before October 23. It's worse right now. We have more than 5 million, 5.5 million Palestinians live in those green areas, while actually all the other areas are taken by the Israelis, are stolen by the Israelis. How they did this? This is a long history of wide range of policies, targeting all means of life for Palestinians, targeting food system, targeting environment, targeting infrastructure, ethnic cleansing, genocide. So the first Nakba was in 1948, and that actually was simply pushing the people to leave their land. And we still have the keys. So the good news behind that we still have 7 million Palestinians over the ground of Palestine, and they will remain there. But it's very important to contextualize here to reflect that the whole conflict is not about religion, it's not about anything, but it's about ugly settler colonialism project that is trying to grab the land from the indigenous people. Where the Palestinians live now inside Palestine, they live in 3 areas, in West Bank, in Gaza, and inside the occupied territories in 1948. And in the West Bank, you have around 3.2 million live in 227 geographically disconnected districts. Do you know what does it mean, geographically disconnected areas? So if you would like to go every day to your school or your university or your work in the neighboring town, you have to go through Israeli checkpoints. West Bank is divided into 3 areas according to this peace process, Oslo Agreement, Area A, B, and C. A is only 18%, where majority of the Palestinian communities live. And this, according to Oslo Agreement and the peace process, and by the way, they call it peace process because it's a process without result. And so 18% of the Palestinians live in this locality with the agreement that it is 100% controlled by the Palestinian Authority. But all the aggression you see today, they're invading those territories every day, killing, destroying, and challenging all means of life for Palestinians in Area A. Area B, according to agreement, it should be jointly controlled, but it is fully controlled by the Israelis. And Area C, which is the most interesting part, which is Palestinian land, internationally acknowledged as Palestinian land. And when we talk about this Oslo Agreement, we are talking only about 23% of the historical Palestine. And now we are talking about 60% of this, like 23% of total Palestine, where actually the Israelis keep talking about peace and keep stealing more and more land to build more and more illegal settlements. And when I say illegal settlements, it's illegal settlements by the definition of the international community. This is not the Palestinian, where actually they are bringing 500,000 illegal settlers living over Palestinian land. And this is maybe a very interesting photo, just reflecting what does it mean to live in geographically disconnected areas. So every day, if you are going to school or university, you have to go through those checkpoints. And you see those like soldiers. And you may spend hours before they let you in. Many people actually died in ambulances because they were actually not allowed to cross those checkpoints. And if you see actually, if anyone coming from like farming background, do you know actually those corridors for which purpose are usually used? For dairy cattle. When they bring the dairy cattle for milking, they use those corridors. This is how they dehumanize Palestinian in the West Bank. Gaza is well known as the largest open-air prison where you have 2.2 million people. Talking about Gaza, I just call it the sustained crisis. It's not only the last 20 years, but even since the first Nakba, Gaza was actually a crisis area where you have 2.2 million. So I'm just describing here the situation before October 23, where actually strict siege blockade by the Israelis put on Gaza since 2007. Very small piece of land with 2.2 million people under strict blockade. What does it mean, blockade? You are not allowed to bring food. You are not allowed to bring any equipment, any input. Nothing is allowed unless you get the approval from the Israelis. So, of course, that has sequences. That has increased poverty, food insecurity. We have like around 65% of people in Gaza live under the poverty line, 43% unemployment rate, and very limited, very deteriorated infrastructure services. I mean, like infrastructure and public services like electricity. And I mean, what I would like actually to explain here, that what the Israelis were trying to do, they were trying to use their control over all means of life for Palestinians to push the Palestinians to leave their land. So it's not what I'm going to present here, I'm going to present only about food system and education. As of course, this is my experience, but also this is like only an example. But you just find this in all other means of life and all other sectors. And what I'm just trying to explain here only for the last 20 years, but it has a very long history. I mean, thinking about food system, for example. I mean, you have 2.2 million live in Gaza. 75% of those 2.2 million are not actually Gazans. They are refugees. They are coming from the historical Palestine displaced in Gaza. So they left their houses, but they kept the keys. And they came to live in Gaza in this small piece of land. So pressure to put all this amount of people in a very small piece of land, what kind actually of implication this would have on land resources, water resources, capacity to produce food. So this has caused actually very intensive production modalities that actually has really severe implications on our natural resources and our water resources. We had water crisis in Gaza before October 2023. United Nations was talking about Gaza. Water is undrinkable since 2020. And this is because actually of the stress on the natural resources that is made by the Israelis. But this is not enough. I mean, what the Israelis are trying to do during those last 20 years, only last 20 years, there is something called access restricted area. Access restricted area, which is the land along the borderline with Israel. And this is access restricted area. It is land that we own, but we are not allowed to use because the Israelis call it access restricted area or buffer zone. And this buffer zone, it is even like you have even different regulations by the Israelis. Some area, it is no man zone, where actually you are not allowed to cultivate, you are not allowed to access. It's your land, but you are not allowed to go there. And if you go there, they will kill you. And other area where you are allowed to cultivate, but you are not you are allowed to cultivate only crops that will grow 100 centimeters, so only 1 meter. If it is more than one meter, so they will just destroy it and target the farmers. So me, myself, we own land in this area. Yeah, so, and this is actually our land. It's my family land, but we are not allowed to use. But this is not enough. Also our sea, fishing area. It's also called access restricted area. The Israelis actually denied our access to the fishing area. 85% of our fishing area is not accessible because of the Israelis. And I mean, when recently the famine was announced in Gaza, the Israelis were talking about, propaganda, United Nations, the whole world actually is just creating propaganda. We are kind, nice people, but this is, this is the policy of the Israelis, how they actually. I don't know if any one of you heard about the red line policy. The red line policy was actually imposed on Gaza in 2007 when they started the blockade on Gaza. The red line policy, where they were calculating what is the minimum caloric intake per person, multiply this by the number of population, and then they allowed only the amount of food to come inside Gaza to fulfill the minimum caloric need, and that was already in 2007. And at that time, an Israeli human rights organization was talking about this. And as usual, the Israelis said, no, this is lie, this is propaganda, we never do this. And then the NGO, it's called Gisha, they went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court actually forced the Israeli government to announce this red line policy in 2012. So agricultural input. So the ARA is eating up around 1/3 of our arable land inside Gaza. Even the 2/3 remaining, we cannot cultivate because this is limited to the inputs that are allowed by the Israelis to come inside Gaza. The Gaza, they have something very funny. It's called the dual use list. What is dual use list? So those all are equipments, items that can be used for civil, peaceful purposes, and it can be used as well for other purposes like militant purposes. Like, for example, fertilizers, chemical fertilizers. And guess what? They are the only one who can decide actually what to put in that list. without any justification. So they can just put whatever they wish. I mean, they may also decide sometimes to put the food into that list. So actually, this is actually how they controlled even our agricultural system, by actually limiting inputs that are coming inside Gaza and affecting our capacity to produce our food. Resources restriction. As I said, we have the resources, we have the land, but we are not allowed to use it. We are disconnected from the rest of Palestine. We cannot use any water. We have water scarcity. And we cannot actually use any water that's coming from West Bank or coming from our occupied territory in 1948. So, but the Israelis seems to be found this is not enough. So, and this is a very good also to reflect that this is not the first war actually on Gaza. There was even massive wars in Gaza happened in 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021, and the last one in 2023. And between war and another war, there are also like several aggressive action and incursion into Palestinian land, targeting our farming system. And here what I just give an example between 2018 and 2020, it's just an example that this period of time there was no war. And this actually was reported by Ministry of Agriculture, the volume of destruction in the farming system, in the farming sector in Gaza, even in a period of time that we do not have war. And the whole world never heard about this. Greenhouses, for example, in 2020, like 70% of Gaza greenhouses were partially or completely destroyed. Herbicide spraying. The Israelis would come just spraying herbicide along the borderline and going inside our land, killing all our plants, even without even like just, and if anybody is asking them, this is security. It is security. Or opening the winter dams. So that happened several times. They opened the winter dams on Palestinian land, destroy all our farms without even being like accountable for what they are doing. So, I mean, this is just reflecting how the situation was before the war. So we had a loss over 40% of agricultural land was damaged or destroyed, partially or totally. Infrastructure destruction, talking about wells, greenhouses, all the farm assets were targeted by the Israelis. Depleted local capacity. Of course, the recurrent targeting of our food system is just reflection of even like deteriorated capacity to adapt. Once I was like presenting and one of the participants was asking me a good question, why you Palestinians always talking about resilience, and talking about mitigate? I mean, why you are not trying to mitigate? I said, yes, mitigation is very easy, but it's political. If you end the occupation, then we can just start like having like even normal way of thinking. So, of course, also this has affected all our capacity at all levels, like of course, fragile institutions. Institutions talking about ministries, universities, research institutions, all the system is actually targeted, deteriorated, and left actually weak to adapt with such level of aggression and targeting. Policy gaps, of course, I mean, thinking always about rehabilitation and rebuilding and rehabilitation and rebuilding. Who's going to think about development? Who's going to think about anything about the future? We are always thinking about what was destroyed and how to rebuild what was destroyed. Lack of coordination, of course, and also this geopolitical context and having two governments, one in West Bank and one in Gaza, with all this complication that is created by the geopolitical context that is affected by or created by this ugly settler colonialism project affecting our capacity, and of course resources constraint. So even our institution, we always just dependent on donors. Donors are coming, but usually they are not coming only with their money. They are coming also with their agenda as well. So what is the result? Very high level of food insecurity, very limited capacity to produce food, and you have restriction on your natural resources to produce food. This is for our food system before October 23. What about our education system? It is the same. The education system, the same actually, it was targeted, weakening the education system even before October 23. But also, education is very important for Palestinian and is seen as a big threat by the Israelis. Why education? Again, because it is a battle of knowledge. It is our collective identity. It is reflecting our culture. You know, I like here, like in Canada, we are talking about indigenous people and all those indigenous studies. We are, as new settlers here, believe me, I just was watching one video, because I am foreigner, I am new settler here, so I need to tell my student about this land acknowledgement. I cannot pronounce the names of the indigenous groups. It's very difficult for me to pronounce those. It was really painful, and believe me, I cried when I just saw that videos that someone is trying actually to teach me how to pronounce those. Do you know what I thought? Maybe in 100 years, someone will just teach people in Palestine how to pronounce the name of the Palestinian. It's really painful. They are trying to steal even our identity and our culture. Education is there to say, no, this is our identity, this is our culture, this is our knowledge. You enjoy a very nice hummus. Yeah? Anybody invited you to eat hummus? Israeli food? Israeli traditional food? Anybody invited you to enjoy their hummus? They cannot pronounce it. They cannot pronounce it. You know what does it mean? It's hummus? Actually, it's not hummus, it is hummus. And do you know what does it mean, hummus? It is the Arabic word for chickpeas. So they call it Israeli food. So you see, they are trying to steal our identity, our culture, the language of the land, that we are trying to preserve. We are trying to build the capacities. Now they are talking about colonial universities in Gaza to substitute our national universities. And once I was invited to one of those workshops talking about what are the skills needed for the Palestinian leaders in the future, with the new values of peace and freedom that are coming through over the Israeli tanks funded by the American money. I told them only one thing we need from our young generation: to be Palestinian. This is the most important thing. We build the capacity of our Palestinian young generation to build Palestinian independent state. So therefore, education is seen as a big threat for the Israeli colonial project. The history of education, it was targeted since I was a child. I am 51 years old. As a child, I remember, I was taught Egyptian curricula. I know about the pharaohs. I don't know about Palestinian histories. In West Bank, the education was administered by Jordanian. So the curricula, the Palestinian curricula, was not allowed under occupation. But you know, we just get it from the milk of our mother. For higher education at the time before 1967, so the only thing was even to go out of Palestine, even after the 67. So, and at that time, the Israelis were utilizing this even as mean to evacuate Palestinian land. So if you are asking a permit to leave to go to join a university outside, you are not allowed to come back. You have to sign, you are abroad for at least 2 years. And then we started with local initiative. It is civil-based organizations started higher education because we believe as Palestinian, for us, education is everything. Because again, it's reflecting our identity as Palestinian. And we started actually establishing our higher education institutions. And this is a list of our higher education institutions and year of establishment in West Bank and Gaza. And those are the first Palestinian universities established in Gaza and West Bank. And those are the 12 universities operating in Gaza before October 23, serving around 90,000 students. So the situation before October 2023. I mean, it's very interesting. I was talking to the colleagues today, and we were just talking about Al-Azhar University, my university. So those who are from Egypt or from the Middle East, they know Al-Azhar University is Egypt. It's a big, historical, well-known for the whole Muslim world, Al-Azhar University. So why actually my university in Gaza is called Al-Azhar University? Do you know why? Because when BLO decided to build a national university at the time of the occupation in 1990, we need to ask a permit from the Israelis to establish this university. So group of professors went to the Israeli authority, the occupation authority, asking them for permission to establish a Palestinian university, a Palestinian national university. And of course, at that time, the name was not Al-Azhar. And of course, the Israelis said, no, forget about it. And what they did at that time, BLO actually approached Al-Azhar University in Egypt, asking them, we are going to tell the occupier that we are going to build a university on the ground of Gaza, but it is a branch of Al-Azhar University in Egypt. It is not, but we are going to tell them it is a branch of Al-Azhar University in Egypt. Then we are going to teach anything but no Palestine. So, and then they approved that. And then we were established originally as Al-Azhar University, Gaza. But after 1994 and Oslo Agreement, and we had the first Palestinian Ministry of Education in the Palestinian Authority, we did not change the name. So the name of my university is Al-Azhar University / Gaza. Yeah, but this is reflecting actually that we are challenged since the establishment. But is this the first war? No, actually, there was war in 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021, and this is the... Again, I just like repeat and repeat. By the way, tomorrow is after tomorrow is my birthday, 51 years old. So 34 years ago, I started my education journey in the same faculty which I'm leading today as undergrad student. And this faculty was destroyed 3 times before October 23. They were targeting the faculty 3 times. But the good news, it was rebuilt 3 times. And during this war, they destroyed it for the 4th time. So it's not the first time to destroy our, actually the terminology, scholasticide, the first time the scholasticide was actually emerged in 2009 after the first war in 2008, reporting systematic intentional targeting of education system in Palestine. And this is actually the most recent publication on this article I co-authored about scholasticide in Palestine. It's really very interesting to read. Impact of the siege on academic exposure. I mean, here the Center of Comparative Muslim Studies, they were very kind to invite me here. So the colleagues here just, booked me a flight. Yesterday I took the flight, come here to Vancouver to meet wonderful people to discuss. The first time I could visit Jerusalem, which is 80 kilometers from the place where I live, when I was 40 years old. And that was organized actually by United Nations and the Canadian government, because they invited me to present in West Bank. So they coordinated the permit for me. So I cannot visit any Palestinian university in West Bank. Nobody from West Bank can come to visit our university. Of course, for Gazans, forget about the international academic exposure. So we are internationally isolated, and this is affecting our exposure. Economic deterioration and financial strain. The only income for Palestinian university is coming from student fees. So, and under unemployment, high level of poverty, before October 23, I am board member, so I am part of the administration of the university. We had always this confrontation with the union because the union accusing us like being careless because we do not push the students to pay the fees. We cannot pay the salaries of our employees. And that was before October 23. Loss of life. I can tell you the names of my friends and colleagues who were killed, arrested, injured by the Israelis when I was a child in the primary school, when I was a teenager, when I was in the high school, when I was a student at the university. Until now, I can't tell you the names of my colleagues, professors who were killed, arrested, injured by the Israeli occupation. Restriction on academic resources. I mean, here or any other place in the world, if you just build a laboratory in the university, so you get even tax exemption, and you get even some just you are supported by the government to build this capacity for teaching. And in Palestine, in Gaza, even if you get the donor who is kind enough to support this, so, for example, equipment for physics lab or chemist lab or chemistry lab or even material to operate you are not allowed to bring this material because the Israelis would restrict them. So, but again, we are Palestinian and we are always symbol of resilience. Different approaches of resilience. I like to tell the story of my father. My father passed away in 2021. We had this farm actually near the borderline in the buffer zone, cultivated with olive trees. And olive actually would need like 3 to 5 years to produce. And you have to wait actually till you see production. You need to spend a lot of money to wait. Now, my father cultivated the land, waiting for 3-4 years, and the Israelis come cut the trees. My father would recultivate the land. Another 3-4 years, they come and cut the trees. I'm an agricultural economist, so for me, it is cost-benefit analysis. I mean, we saw the cost, where is the benefit that? So please just tell me, what are you doing there? he said something impressive. He told me, let them cut it 100 times, I will recultivate it 101 times. This is the language of the indigenous people, that they value the olive tree, because such a crime of cutting a tree cannot be actually committed by a Palestinian, because we belong to the land and we value the land. So this has affected our farming community and just created wide range of coping mechanisms like asset sales, water resources management, and this is a very good project that we were trying to use like treated wastewater, or what we call it recovery scheme, to irrigate as alternative source of water for irrigation, rebuilding and rehabilitation. And this is actually the modality. Like everybody, one would just expect, like when your farm is destroyed 1 time and 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, so you just quit. It's very simple, it's too much. But this is not the Palestinian. The Palestinian would go and rebuild and recultivate again. Pre-education resilience. Of course, we were showing actually resilience, because, as I said, my faculty was destroyed 3 times, and we rebuilt it 3 times. And every time we just come to the donors and tell them, the Israelis destroyed our building. Please support us to rebuild this. Yeah, and that happened like several times. We had always as a dean of the faculty, I had always had like this struggle and tension with the president and the administration asking for resources. I know that there is no resources, but we always trying to struggle to find the resources, even within the university or outside the university. Global engagement is through the siege, and this, and that was even a very good side of the COVID actually time, when we just got more experience working remotely. And what happened actually in October 23? It was very simple. They have been working to challenge weakening food, education, environment, everything inside. Now it is the time of conclude. See, they want to conclude their project. Now they want to annihilate the system. So we don't need any Palestinians here. How to do this? We just end their food system, end their education system, end their health system, end their public services. Everything should be destroyed. And this is a very clear shift. In the first day, on the 7th of October, official in the Israeli government came to the TV, and he said clearly, no food, no electricity, no water. But nobody actually was asking, was this really, how come the Israelis, in one day, within hours, they have full control over our system? No, it's not one day. It's a long history of control. They were just shifting from control to annihilation of the system. So this is actually, this was reported by FAO, the destruction of our food system. So I conducted a study in 2024 to reflect actually what was actually the level of destruction. And here just showing it was following step by step the value chain of our food system. And they were destroying this in a very systematic, intentional way. Our water resources. Water wells were destroyed, targeting systematically. As you see here in this map, 1,188 agricultural wells, 52% were destroyed. And they were utilizing even water wells as a weapon to push people to leave. My colleague at the university, he had actually a solar energy in his house in Gaza. So the neighbors were utilizing this solar energy to generate power for the well, to drink water, nearby well. He himself, he was displaced. He was in the south. The Israeli officer called him, telling him, you should ask the people not to use the solar energy, because if they keep using the solar energy, we are going to destroy it. He said, I'm not there. He said, I know you are not there, but you just tell the people, the neighbors there, if they want water, they need to go out from the south, from the north. They go to the south. We will not allow them to generate power to get water. And then the man just called the neighbors and said, okay, we will just keep it hidden and something like this. And they kept using it, trying to hide it. But after 1 week, they destroyed the solar energy. And 1 month later, they destroyed the whole house. Here is the crop production, different crops. And the red light, the red color here you see, is this just reflecting the destruction of the crops in Gaza. And this is also FAO maps. And this is very interesting. This is a GCF-funded climate adaptation project in northern Gaza. And this was actually simply because we have scarcity of water in northern Gaza. The project was about to, and this is also related to the restriction by the Israelis, the wastewater treatment plant in northern Gaza was actually planned to be completed in the year 2000. Because of the Israeli restriction, it was in operation in 2020. Of course, at the time, 2020, it was overloaded. And the capacity to treat water, wastewater, was very limited. So the infiltrated water into the groundwater was low quality and causing contamination of the groundwater. So there was a fear that this contamination will just reach the water that is used for drinking and domestic use. So the project was to build a recovery scheme, like 28 wells, to pump the water and to deliver the water to the farmers to use it to irrigate their they called recovery scheme. Because the farmers and the operating, like the public sector who's operating the system, do not have the financial means to operate, so they established a solar energy plant to operate this. And that all funded by Green Climate Fund and the French Development Agency, ACF. I was part of designing the project. So the first thing that was destroyed during this war was the wells and the solar energy plant. So they are not only utilizing food as a weapon, but also they are utilizing climate change as a weapon. Livestock, all livestock is destroyed. Zero livestock. I mean, you know, I told you I'm leading this faculty of veterinary medicine. We lost, of course, all our laboratories, everything, but also we don't have even animals to teach the students. And the animals were killed actually by two means in Gaza. First, they were targeting directly the animal shelters, killing the animals, bombardment. But also the starvation was not only utilized against a human being, it was also utilized against the animals. They were not allowing any fodder to come inside Gaza. Animals were starving to death in Gaza. And you know the only surviving animal in Gaza? Stray dogs. Do you know why? Because the Israelis did not allow us to collect the dead bodies from the street. And the stray dogs were fed into our martyrs. Here are some photos reflecting systematic destruction of the food system, one step after the other. Factories, input supply, cooperatives, markets, bakeries, so systematic. And this was documented one after the other, as you see here and here. So those are different locations where actually a systematic destruction of our food system and the value chain was targeted. So, post-war reality, so it is, I mean, of course, we all just heard about this famine that was announced in Gaza. And that was simply because the Israelis did not allow food to come inside. So, and it was kind of engineered famine. Like, for example, they want the people to leave from the north to go to the south, to be closer to the borders with Egypt, and to put pressure on the Egyptian regime to allow the transfer of all Palestinians out of Gaza. So if you are in the north, so it's strict famine. You are not allowed. And whenever they are allowing actually food to come inside, they are not allowing food to come inside. They would just announce there is a truck of food will just come through this route. And when the people go there, they attack the people and kill hundreds of people. I was part of this IBC committee because that was formulated from several international agencies and UN agencies. At that time, I was working as a consultant with WFP, and we were discussing about those criteria utilized, about number of mortality. So it's not, it was called, it was like the criteria was non-trauma related deaths or mortality rate. And I said, okay. So they said they need to die from hunger. I said, okay, but when we talk about this 150 people who were killed yesterday because they were running to get some food from the truck and they were attacked by the Israelis, actually what other, I mean, like, and the second day you have another 100. So what is the reason actually why those people are killed? This is not related to the conflict. They are killed because they are hungry. So, you know, I hate usually talking about numbers because numbers is dehumanizing people. Just when you talk about stories, I mean, Zena is a child who were actually dreaming only of a piece of bread. She was suffocated. She suffocated while she was actually in the crowd trying to get piece of bread. She lost her life. All her dream was to eat piece of bread. Azim Abu Dagga, one of my brilliant students, he just graduated very long time ago. And Azim was leading the mission of the World Kitchen in southern Gaza. And he was in the vehicle with his driver and another co-worker in southern Gaza. And the only thing he was doing is trying to support people with food. They attacked the car. He was killed along with his driver and other co-worker. And of course, all what you see about this GHF, it's a trap utilizing food to kill people. Impact on education, it is a shift from controlling, weakening the system into annihilation of the system. It's over, there is no education anymore. We will end it. So they destroyed all the infrastructure, killed more than 100 academics. 3 of them are presidents of university. Thousands of students were killed. They left around 90,000 students without universities. 5,000 university staff displaced with no income. That was the reality after October 23. And frankly to say, at the beginning, it was shocking for all of us. I mean, we as individuals, we were actually just in trauma, shocked Just imagine, like, in one day, you leave your house, you are displaced. Most of our faculty live in tents, no food, no electricity, no drinking water. They are trying to survive their life and their children's life. They see all the universities are destroyed, systematically destroyed. That was really a great shock for all of us. And again, I will never forget my student, Bilal Aish. He was a star student, where actually I got to struggle with the administration to get him a contract to work as instructor. And with some fighting, I could get the money to get him the contract. So he was very happy. In September 2023, he came to my office, smiling, coming to say thank you. But he was not only saying thank you, he was planning to get his graduate studies. Because I got my graduate studies in Germany and in USA, so he was coming to ask me if I would support him and guide him for scholarship in Germany and what he should do, how he can apply, what kind of recommendation, what kind of connection. While he was talking, I was really very happy. Very happy because I looked in his eyes. I saw the hope for big future, not for him, for the institution and for the country. I saw the future of our country in his eyes. So, I see this guy sitting in my place in 30 years. And then we have the future of our institution. He was killed in October 23. At the time when he was killed, actually, I felt, they are trying to kill our future. These are some photos. This is the Islamic University. This is another building of the Islamic University. This is another building of the Islamic University. And this is actually a reflection of even, when we were like children, at the time when we do something bad, we would hide. Yeah? Those, they are proud of what they are doing. They were making videos and they were boasting when they were destroying our universities, our libraries, our life. They were making this and making videos and laughing. This photo was taken from one of the public social media of one of the officers after they destroyed the new campus of Al-Azhar University, my university, where I have my office. And this is what they wrote. Let's go, we're finally done with this shit. And this is the result. This is the building, and this is the third building of Faculty of Agriculture and Veterinary Medicine that was destroyed. And here used to be my office. This is Al-Aqsa University. This is Al-Quds University, Al-Isra University. But again, we are Palestinian. And we have the resilience. And our most impressive resilient model in Gaza is Yusuf Abu Rabia. Yusuf is one of my students in the fourth year Faculty of Agriculture, Department of Plant Production and Protection. He's from Beit Lahia in northern Gaza. Beit Lahia was evacuated, and the Israelis were asking the people to leave, and the people refused to leave. They destroyed everything. They destroyed all means of life. It is arable. I mean, this is farming area. This is agricultural community. They destroyed everything. They destroyed all means of production of food in northern Gaza, especially in Beit Lahia. And they asked the people, okay, you need food, go to the south. There is no food. We will not, and they banned the food, the humanitarian food to come into northern Gaza. The people in Beit Lahia were starving. Yusuf started an initiative, it's called in Arabic, Hanizraha. We will cultivate it. He went to the destroyed input stores collecting the seeds from the rubble, rehabilitated his own farm, started with almost no resources to cultivate the seed, to produce seedlings, to distribute the seedlings to the neighbor farmers, to produce food and to feed the starved people in Gaza. This is the model of resilience that is threatening the Israelis. I'm quoting what he wrote in his social media. سنزرعها حبا وحبا وسنرويها دما ودمعا. We will cultivate it with seeds and love, and we will irrigate it with tears and blood. And he did. They targeted him with drone while he was farming his land in Gaza and killed him. Allah yarhamak, ya Yusuf. I did another study trying to show even resilience model of our women, wonderful women resilience model, how actually they were finding any means to produce food. So they were inventing new recipes. They were using indigenous seeds to produce, because the Israelis, by the way, the Israelis till now, they are not allowing seeds to come inside Gaza. Till now, they are not allowing seeds to come inside Gaza. So they are trying actually, and they destroyed the seed bank for indigenous seeds. But it is still working and still producing there. So, and they initiated several community-led initiatives to produce and distribute food and community kitchen. So we had really a very good project with London School of Economy. Inshallah, next month we will have a very good output, which is a photo essay reflecting this food story and food resilience and community initiatives. This is really a very good project. So women together were actually inventing spaces to exchange knowledge and to exchange even experiences, how to cope with the crisis. For the university, as I told you, I mean, at the beginning, it was really shocking for all of us. And frankly, to say, we say, okay, at the beginning, we say, this is not the first time. They did it before. As soon as the war will end, we will start again. We will rebuild it. We will go. But it took us very long time, massive destruction. Then in March 23, we started to think. I was in Egypt displaced, and then the president of the university arrived. And then we got to meet. I told him, okay, what should we do? He said, okay, let's do something. But what to do? I said, okay, let's communicate with donors, potential partners, like to see what can be done. And then we got like two messages. One of them was really threatening and alarming for us. The first one was, education is not a priority. People are hungry, they have no shelter, no water. This is the priority, forget about education. Even if you think about education, we may think about primary education, not higher education. The second one was really alarming for us. The second one, it's over. There is no universities anymore. Everything is destroyed. We may have students think about helping students, individuals, or scholars helping scholars, individuals. And that was really threatening, because for us, we believe sustaining education will never be possible unless we just sustain the institutions. And therefore, there was a very important statement made in April, and you can find it in Al Jazeera English, by academics in Gaza. The statement is, yes, they destroyed the buildings, yes, they destroyed the infrastructure, but we believe universities are not buildings. Universities are communities. As long as we are there, we will sustain our mission, and we are calling all the international academic community to support the right of education and to save the Palestinian academic institutions. And we started to think about resuming teaching. At that time, I still remember, even some of our colleagues were just looking at us, are you crazy? I mean, students and scholars live in tents. They have no electricity, they have no water. Do you think that they are going to sign up for online teaching? So this is stupid. I said, yes, it's stupid, but we are going to try, because we are actually under significant threat. Our national identity can be lost. We started, and my dream was to get only 1,000 out of the 14,000 students in my university to sign up for the online courses. We got 10,000. I still had my heart broken for Bilal. And do you know, the first time I just felt a little bit bitter? The first semester, in the midterm exam, the Israelis were actually issuing evacuation order in Gaza City. And they attacked one of the houses, destroyed the house. And one of those houses, the house was my student, Salim Marouf. And Salim was injured. His family was displaced in the hospital. He was receiving treatment in Al Ahli hospital. And then the tanks were surrounding Al Ahli hospital, asking the people to leave. But the people decided, we are not leaving, so where to go? And we have even injured case. Salim was injured in the hospital, and he was texting me, hey, professor, lecture number 2, there is topic, this topic you did not explain. Are you going to bring it in the midterm exam? At that time, I didn't know actually what should I do? How should I feel? Should I cry? Or should I laugh? But the only thing I got, I should never give up. And you know, as if Salim is telling me, yes, they killed Bilal, but Salim is there. Salim is there. And Salim graduated, by the way, and got married. So, postgraduate programs, you see this beautiful photo? This is the first master thesis that was actually colloquium in the tent. Medicine students, they were working as actually doctors in the hospitals because most of the doctors were targeted and killed. Our young medicine students were actually serving as doctor. And research initiatives, several research initiatives were actually also taking place. So, very important being here in university, what to do. I think international academic institution and normal people have the role and the responsibility to enhance the resilience of the Palestinian people over their land. Research community especially need to support joint research with Palestinian academic institutions for mainly 2 reasons. First reason, all those crimes and atrocities committed against the Palestinian people in all aspects of life, whatever your discipline is, we need a documentation of the genocide in Gaza. Maybe the international community fails the Palestinians to hold those criminals accountable for what they did. But this knowledge should be recorded. We still listen to the voice of Hind Rajab. We have the voices of Palestinians should be recorded, and therefore research is urgently needed in all disciplines. But it's not only because recording and documenting of the crimes. The biggest threat right now, the settler colonialism and the colonial power, that they are trying to rebuild Palestine and Gaza according to their colonial project. We should, as academic ethical responsibility to reflect the Palestinian narrative, how the Gazans would like to see Gaza rebuilt. Reflect the Palestinian narrative about rebuilding Gaza as the Palestinian of Gaza would like to see Gaza rebuilt. So what is urgently needed? Financial support in all means to support not only academic institutions, but all means of life for the Palestinian to sustain their resilience over their land, to stand against the ugly colonial agenda of transfer, support shifting from to distance learning modalities, and this is very important, volunteer teaching and joint research, but most important, keep talking about Palestine, keep telling the stories of the victims, and let the whole world listen to the victim voice. Thank you very much.